Why were you not appreciated before 1966?
I thought I was.
By the time you get actual winning of it, are you sort of numb? You are.
Your name isn't called, and I don't know what that feeling is.
Lee Marvin's Breakup. That changed Hollywood. The untold story of Palimony. What happens when a Hollywood legend breaks up with his girlfriend and ends up rewriting American law? One house by the ocean, two lovers without a license. A promise, maybe only pillow talk, maybe a contract that explodes into headlines, depositions, and a brand new word the tabloids can't stop saying. She'll later snarl to cameras, "If a man wants to leave a toothbrush at my house, he better bloody well marry me." Pre-internet, pre-memes. That line spreads like wildfire, turning a private romance into a public referendum on love, money, and what partnership really means. Stay with me. This story begins as a breakup and ends by changing how millions think about moving in together. Boy meets girl, no ring attached, mid-1960s. Lee Marvin is the gravel-voiced tough guy of the Dirty Dozen. She is Michelle Triola, dancer, actor, singer. They meet in '64. By '65, they share a home by the ocean, looking married in everything but paperwork. Travel, parties, domestic routines. She slows her career to orbit his. No vows, no license, just two people who believe we is enough. Until it isn't. In 1970, the relationship cracks. Marvin marries someone else. For a while, checks arrive, about $833 a month, while Michelle restarts the career she put on hold. Then, late '71, silence. The checks stop. In 1972, Michelle Triola does the unthinkable for a Hollywood girlfriend. She sues, not for heartbreak, for a promise. The lawsuit with a catchy name. Enter attorney Marvin Mitchelson, part legal mind, part showman. He doesn't just file a claim, he frames a breakfast table debate. Reporters seize a sticky new word, palimony, alimony from a pal. America asks, if you live like spouses, can you owe each other like spouses? Was there a promise here, or just romance? Legally, this is wild country. California had long abolished common law marriage. Living together didn't make you a spouse, but what if two adults agree, in words or by their actions, to share income, support each other, and build a life with real stakes? Can a court enforce that like a contract? In 1976, the California Supreme Court cracks the door. Cohabiting adults can make contracts about earnings and property. Not automatic, not marriage light, but if you can prove promises, explicit or implied, the law might listen. The case can go to trial. Cue quiet panic in Hollywood and fascination everywhere else. Because now the question becomes, when does I love you start to sound like I promise you? Alimony versus palimony. Cut like a trailer, alimony is a divorce term. It applies to spouses who signed a license and are splitting community property. Palimony isn't a statute. It's a nickname for claims between unmarried partners after a breakup. Here's the catch. Palimony has no automatic rights. To win, you need a contract, clear or implied, that one partner would support the other or share assets. Not vows at an altar, but words, sacrifices, shared decisions you can show to a judge. Michelle's theory? Simple, explosive. She paused her career to support his. He promised to take care of her for life. If those words and actions add up to a deal, she wants a share of what he earned while they lived as partners. The tabloids salivate, fans pick sides, lawyers sharpen pencils. The trial. Love story. On the witness stand. January 1979. After years of legal fencing, the trial begins. 11 weeks. Standing room only. Every private joke, bank deposit, and whispered reassurance gets weaponized by lawyers who never lived in that house. Michelle paints a portrait. 6 years as a partner in all but name. Shared routines, hosting friends, joint accounts while he filmed on location. She says he proposed twice, that there were pregnancies, that sacrifices were made because they had an understanding. Love letters? Not just sweet evidence. Lee takes the stand and slams the brakes. He denies any lifetime promise, insists he never intended to share earnings. Those tender lines? He calls them sexual endearments. When she took his last name, he even jokes she could have chosen a bigger star's Gary Cooper, maybe, a courtroom zinger that lands like a cold shower. The room divides. Was this a romance that ran out of gas, painful but private, or a partnership that created enforceable expectations? The judge listens, stone-faced, as two people describe the same 6 years in two different languages, Judgment Day and The Twist. Judge Arthur K. Marshall splits the difference. He denies Michelle a share of Lee's earnings, no enforceable contract proved, but he awards $104,000 of rehabilitative support, roughly 2 years at her peak earnings, to help her retrain and restart. Both sides spin it. He keeps his fortune. She gets recognition that living together isn't nothing. Outside, Michelle drops the line that becomes legend. If a man wants to leave a toothbrush at my house, he better bloody well marry me. 2 years later, The Twist. An appellate court reversed that $104,000. In dollars, she ends with nothing. In doctrine, the door stays open. Cohabiting adults can make agreements courts will enforce. And that crack becomes a cultural earthquake. The shockwave. How one case rewired Hollywood. Overnight, palimony becomes dinner party shorthand. Lawsuits between lovers, usually wealthy, always messy. Lawyers draft cohabitation agreements, Marvin agreements, spelling out who pays what, who owns what, and whether support follows a split. The lesson is cinematic and sober. Living together can carry legal consequences, even without I do. Other famous couples step into the storm. In 1989, Sandra Locke sues Clint Eastwood after 13 years together. Part palimony, part fraud, then a second suit over a sham development deal, and it ends in settlements and a message she says is loud and clear to Hollywood power brokers. There's Liberace and Scott Thorson, a same-sex palimony headline in the early 80s, lurid coverage, and an out-of-court settlement. Cash, cars, even the dogs, proving the logic stretches beyond straight couples. Not every claim succeeds. Far from it. Courts enforce agreements provable by words or conduct and not based on sexual services. They won't transform dating into marriage, but they will ask whether your shared life looked and sounded like a deal. Palimony, plain and dramatic. What palimony is: shorthand for contractual and equitable claims between unmarried partners after a breakup. You must show a promise, express or implied, about support, sharing, or property. What palimony is not: an automatic right, no marriage license, no built-in alimony. You don't get half just because you dated. You need proof, receipts, texts, emails, conduct that points to a real agreement. Why it shocked people. It told millions that modern relationships, without rings, can still have legal stakes if you act like partners and make commitments that walk and talk like contracts. The law didn't crown girlfriends and boyfriends as spouses. It did something subtler. It told adults who choose not to marry that their promises matter. One court sentence birthed a cottage industry of prenups without the the human story beneath the headlines. It's easy to treat this like courtroom chess, but behind the case were two people staring at the same memories and seeing different futures. Michelle says she paused her ambitions for their plan. Lee says there was affection, not obligation. Did he propose? She says twice. Did he promise support? She says yes. He says never. Love letters read one way in the quiet, another way under oath. A joint bank account can look like convenience on set or a sign of shared wealth. Even the last name Marvin felt like devotion to her and a punchline to him. The trial didn't just put finances on record, it put meaning on trial. Whose reading of those years would the law recognize? The media spectacle and the two best sound bites coverage was breathless, sometimes cruel. Moral panic versus legal nuance. Comedians feasted. Columnists condensed complexity into two blunt instruments. From Michelle, if a man wants to leave a toothbrush at my house, he better bloody well marry me. A mic drop that warned a generation. from Mitchelson. Any two idiots can get a marriage license. Spicy, sure. But beneath the sting lives a serious question. Should paperwork decide who lands on their feet when a shared life ends? Here's the dangerous practical question. If your relationship ended tomorrow, what promises could you prove? Not what you felt, what you promised. The breakup that changed Hollywood wasn't really about money. It was about meaning. And it leaves us with this. If you live like a spouse without being one, what do you owe when love is over? Next time, we'll open a modern cohabitation agreement line by line. What's smart, what's sneaky, and which clauses actually protect your future. Tap subscribe so you don't miss how one Hollywood breakup still shapes real life, one toothbrush at a time.